What do you get when a legless lad and a blind bloke walk into a bar? A couple of mates on a mission to challenge what it means to be tough.
Righto, welcome back to another episode of Talkin Tough. We are out on a mission to redefine what it means to be tough. Proudly brought to you by Ski for Life, an incredible Australian charity dedicated to promoting mental health, wellbeing and suicide prevention. Legless, it is great to have you back on the couch, mate.
Good to be here, Benny, even though we are in a bit of a different location. But on the road, currently delivering a bit of redefining what it means to be tough in South Australia. Again, do a bit of that stuff. And we have the pleasure today of hosting the podcast at one of our great mates' house and really drawing from some of the wonderful people we meet when we're on the road.
Yeah, bloody oath. I think that's, again, as we've spoken about off the top of Season 2, what Season 2 has been all about, being able to have the gear, being able to pack it up, even though the suitcases were bloody heavy. Sorry, Qantas. We got it all over here, and we've been able to, instead of getting and asking these amazing down-to-earth people to fly over to Melbourne to jump in a studio with us, we've been able to bring it to them, and everyone's just been able to drive and meet us here for a bit of a yarn, which would be great.
And today's guest, I don't know him from a bar of soap, so I'm looking to get into it today because I've met him for a little bit. He's rocked up half an hour ago, and from what I've heard, we are in for a ripping yarn. An absolute legend of bloke. Where do you get your energy from, mate? We'll get to that in a minute. But I heard him on the phone yesterday.
Off you, mate.
Just a family man, obviously. Quite a story to tell, but I'm really looking forward to tucking into this one.
Yeah, Dan Wardy Ward. Wardy, mate.
G'day, boys.
You're part of Ski for Life. We'll get to that down the track.
Why do they call you Wardy, mate?
Yeah, that's always. Hey, look, I have had nicknames galore over my life, so Wardy sits okay with me. But,
yeah, that's it.
We can get into a couple of the nicknames I've had over the years a little bit later, I must admit, but that might come up. But thanks heaps for having us. I am super pumped to be here, by the way.
Good to have you, mate.
You mentioned about energy, Mike. You get in a room with you two boys and
I've got to let people in on a bit of a
mate.
secret. There may have been a few, pre-podcast jitters on the table.
It was what we like to call a pre-podcast push-up to get the energy out.
He's down, pushing the floor out and getting a bit of energy out. How you feeling, mate? You ready to go?
I'm pretty embarrassed you brought that up, to tell you the truth. But, nervous energy,
you don't
go.
get a chest as good looking at that as yours,
on,
mate.
Denny, stop it.
Coming from
Please.
me.
Come on.
Coming from me, it means nothing.
In all seriousness, Wardy, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome stuff.
It's always amazing having people come on and share quite vulnerable things around their experience, their journey through life. One of the things we always like to do in our podcast is we kick off by asking our guests what tough meant to them growing up. What constitutes toughness in your eyes growing up?
Look, growing up, that was everywhere. Like the examples of toughness to me were all over the joint. Firstly, the first one that springs to mind, I do have to say, is my old man did the right thing and brainwashed me from a very young age to be a Norwood Redlegs supporter. So naturally, bloke by the name of Gary McIntosh. Have you guys heard of a bloke called Gary McIntosh?
Are we talking SANFL here?
Norwood Redleg.
We're not talking the big
legend. No, Samful. Mate, this bloke was so hard. Yeah. I kid you not. True South Australian. At one point when he was at the peak of his career, he could have gone and played VFL, but disliked Victoria that much. I'm staying in the SANFL. The bloke wouldn't even drink Victorian beer.
What was it about Victorians that pissed him off so much?
I have no idea because I'm sitting here in front of you guys and you don't seem that bad. But old Gary McIntosh, man, he was just hard. I remember a book that Dad had. It was called something cool like Men in the Red and Blue or something. And he's on the front of this book. I think it was just a famous picture, black and white. He's got hair down over his face. He's got this big goatee hanging down, gritting their teeth. He's got a vein poking out his bicep like the size of my thumb. And he's got like 4 or 5 players hanging off him. He's crashing through. He's like, that was toughness to me. Like Gary McIntosh, 100% number one.
So it's your dad's hero, but he's drilled into you if you want to be a man, if you want to be tough.
Correct,
this
mate.
is a bloke you've got to emulate.
100%. Right. Funnily enough, though, my old man was nothing like him. But my mum's side, everyone on my mum's side, they were, so I guess German heritage, last name Drogemuller. All my uncles, she had 4 brothers. These blokes were all just huge. Like I'm talking just sinew, muscle, big, tough guys on the land, Nan and Pop used to, work the land with their hands. I remember being a little tacker in school holidays and Nan putting a woolen jumper on me, and the calluses on her hand, you used to remember the sound of just pulling the thread out of the, so I'll never forget Nan's like working hands.
Nan, right.
Just along that path there. So yeah, toughness to me was just, being hard, rough, aggressive on the footy field.
So physical
You
strength.
Yeah, 100%. So everywhere, those examples were everywhere growing up.
Unreal.
And
for sure.
they are like so common, aren't they, mate? Like we were asking the same question. We were at a footy club last night, doing one of our Talkin Tough sessions, asked the same question, and it's very much, it was my pop who went through a drought, worked on the land, worked with his hands.
Yep.
It was footy players. Like what Tough was growing up, I think is so consistent. Yes, it's got a lot to answer for, but it's great to hear sort of your version of toughness, being the family and the footy,
Big time.
and just that combo of that is really cool, mate.
Yep.
But that's sort of, I suppose, been ingrained in you. And tell us about now growing up as Wardy, because you are absolutely a ball of energy, mate. You bring the vibe. You're absolutely a motivator of your Ski for Life team, Ski for Tea, just getting around the boys, pumping them up, pulling them through. We'll get to your mate who did the full thing and you needing to get out there this year as we go through. But were you always like that? Like, tell us about growing up, little tacker, family life. Run us through it.
I've got to admit, straight off the bat, probably not. I haven't always been the hype man. I was, even just to this day, I even say to my wife, I've always got, I think the energy comes from the nervousness. I've just, it comes out in, energy and being hyped up and, wanting to hype others up and all that. But as a kid, I was super nervous, man. Like even in this day and age, I know it's, the phrase or the word for it is that, anxiety type sort of stuff. But looking back, I was a real nervous kid. But
Were you shy?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, pretty reserved. And that's the thing. A lot of people just think, man, I'm just so outgoing. I somewhere along the line, I don't know where, I don't know how, but just realised that it was like, oh man, if you are nervous, you can get yourself out of that situation by
Changing.
getting there, puff the chest out,
Yep.
big strong handshake like Dad taught me.
Just fighting it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that is a genuine thing. That I don't know how I sort of developed the outgoingness, energy that I sometimes come across with, I guess, but I do love being a hype man.
Yeah.
And I genuinely love it. And it's like, if I can hype someone else up, I feed off of that as well. And then it's like let's go. Like,
Do you feel like that is now something that comes naturally to you when you wake up in the morning, you look at the mirror and just go, fucking let's go, like let's take on the day? Or is it more, I am still that nervous guy, but I just choose to do this every day?
Yeah, there's 100%. I actually do exercising a fair bit of discipline in my life has probably helped with, I think, the way I naturally am. So you're right, Benny. I get out of bed and I'm just like, oh, come on, let's go. Let's do something hard. Let's do something, that I don't necessarily want to do. That might be, get out in the gym or smack out some push-ups or, whatever else. I feel like that sets my day and it gets me in that mode of, first phone call I make or, first sort of person I've got to engage with for the day.
Yep.
Gets me going. And I just feel like that's something that does feel natural to me now, but I honestly don't know where that sort of started.
Yeah, that's cool.
Along the way.
And you're a fit bloke. You're sitting there. You look like
Thanks,
you pop out some push-ups, definitely outside of what you just did now. And you got a construction shirt, so you're obviously a physical fella,
Yep.
so you need to be fit, healthy. Tell us a little bit about what
Sure.
you do and also proud father.
Yeah, so look, I'm a carpenter by trade, first up. I'm off the tools now, which we'll probably get into a bit later. But
Yep.
I have always loved being physically fit, always active as a kid, playing all sorts of sports, footy, basketball mostly, and just used to love, working outside, getting your hands dirty, working with the boys, just all that sort of environment. And, have just always thought it's a really good thing to keep yourself in shape and, really good stuff.
Beautiful, mate. And tell us about the family.
Yep. So family, very lucky. Got a beautiful wife, Nikki, and 2 awesome kids. Nikki's the wife, and then Harry's 11 and Annie's 8.
Yeah.
So just awesome family, mate. Very blessed to have them. And each and every day, mate, count the blessings.
You mentioned, Wardy, that you're off the tools. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So look, 15 years ago, 2010, had a bit of a life-changing, I guess, accident, if you want to call it that. And long story short, which we probably can't get into the story.
Tell us the long story.
Long one.
Yeah, well, look, as I said, carpenter by trade. So if I'm going to set the scene a little bit, it's, this is 15 years ago, 2010. Me and my beautiful wife, Nikki, who I just mentioned before, we were just married, come back from our honeymoon, newlyweds, life was all, in front of us. I'm captain of the footy club, I'm in awesome shape. This is, I'm working as a carpenter. I'm outside. This is just living the dream.
Yep.
That's the most used phrase on a work site, apart from maybe when smoko. But if you're going onto a construction site, the first dude you see, you go, "Hey, how you going, mate?" And if he doesn't say "living the dream," it's like,
but you were literally living the dream.
Yeah, 100%.
2010.
100% was living the dream, so to speak. And we were just back from our honeymoon, starting to, practice making a family, which was all sorts of fun, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know it.
I got to prove it.
And this particular morning was kind of, I guess Tuesday morning it was just get up, do your thing, get to work early. I was working on a project at the time that was just like a wicked job. Like, it was awesome. We were outside Adelaide Hills, not far from where myself and Nikki lived in our first house. And I was working with some really good mates at the time. So I remember driving to work, just any old other day, but, excited to be there. The sun was shining. We had really good fun on this project. We're having a laugh, early in the morning, the nail guns are chirping.
So a few of you on site?
Yeah. So there was a couple of us on site. We're out there getting amongst it. And, at work for a couple of hours, mucking around with the boys. We're just getting shit done, like it was. Anyway, phone rings. I pick it up and it's Nikki. And as I said, newlyweds, I was sort of used to, receiving a phone call from Nick. It usually just goes down the path of, hey, beautiful, like, I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you after work. I miss your
reminisce
beautiful
on
face.
a honeymoon, and
that's
let's
it.
look back at our wedding photos.
This certain phone call didn't quite go down like that. She was, in fact, in quite a panic. I'm like, oh shit, what's happening here? And long story short, living in the Adelaide Hills, Nikki used to have to commute down into the city for the job she had at the time, and she would use the southeastern freeway, which is the main sort of route from the Adelaide Hills, used from all sorts of interstate traffic, mostly from Melbourne, coming into Adelaide. There's trucks, there's cars, buses. Like, it's a bit of a shit show, especially in peak hour traffic, which this phone call happened sort of around that sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock.
It's not a flat freeway, is it?
No. So really steep descent down into sort of what you'd say the commute. And it was known as a bit of a shit show at the time as well. And she's in a bit of a panic. She's got a little Ford Focus with a flat tyre, kind of right down the bottom of the hill. And as I said, she's in a bit of a panic, and it's like, okay, let's calm down, let's have a look. So flat tyre, yep, cool. Newlywed husband, I'll get on my white horse, come down, save the day, get on with the day. Say to the boys, I'll be back. I'm just going to go sort out the missus, put your coffee orders in. I'll go grab coffees on the way back. Don't have too much fun without me, I'll be back. We'll continue on with the day. Anyway, I get in the car, ring Nikki again, just let's keep calm, just explain I'm on my way, so. And then she proceeds to tell me a few more details. She's down the southeastern freeway, where at its sort of steepest point down the very bottom of the hill has like one sort of last sweeping bend, where it used to go from, say, 100, cuts back down to 80. She was not far from the 60 zone, which at the time, still is, there's a bus shelter and a bus slip lane right down the bottom of the hill. Who signed off on this back in the day? I will have no idea, but she's essentially in a pretty
bad
shit
spot.
spot, bad spot. So, yep, on the way to Nick, talking to her, and she said, when you come down around that last bend, you'll see there's a big broken down car carrier truck parked in the slip lane, and the driver's obviously waiting for some help. He's been there a while, so you're going to see that, and my car's just before that. Cool, I get down there, and she's right, exactly as she explained, broken down car carrier truck in the slip lane. Nikki's maybe 20 metres up from that, just on the side of the road. And this is peak hour. This is pretty hectic. I get down there, pull the ute onto this sort of pavement section, like right adjacent the road. Get out the car, quick kiss and a cuddle. Let's get this happening.
Calm everything down. Everything's all right.
Let's have a
knight in shining armour.
Embrace each other. Yeah, that's it. Your boys here, Get out the car. Straight away, it's manic, man. This is a shit spot. Like, I'm like, I got to get this car off the road. Her flat tire was on the driver's side rear wheel. So I've got a little Ford Focus and just ripped it up the curb onto the pavement sort of area. And, throw her in park, hoik the handbrake up, done this autopilot stuff, changed thousands of tires in my life. Let's get on with it. Let's get the hell out of here.
So you're now off the road.
So her car's off the road, just parked on this pavement sort of section right down the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
Just before this bus slip lane, maybe 20 metres or so away from where the slip lane and the broken down car carrier is. And I just remember sort of just being, this is shit. Let's just get this done and get on with it. And looking at your surroundings, I remember looking up at the bus shelter, and there was maybe a dozen school kids waiting to get on a school bus. I just remember thinking, this is going to be a bit of a weird morning for them. The bus is going to rock up. It's going to have to park right up the arse end of this car carrier and kind of, hang out onto the freeway here. And anyway, whatever, continue on. I remember popping the boot, getting the wheel brace out, starting doing the real wheel nuts, blah, blah, oh shit, left the jack in there, go get back in the boot. And Nikki's closed the boot. I'm like, oh shit, that's, just in my head, I'm like, come on, Nick, I'm in and out of there, don't close the bloody boot. Anyway, I pop it again, get the jack out, get the thing up on the jack. All this time, we're sort of, this manic chaos traffic is like behind us, a metre or so away. You got the noise of the trucks screaming down, like the engine brakes, Jake brakes, that, like.
Trucks coming down.
It's
So there's a lot of stimulus. Like there's a lot going on. All
100%, Mike.
Things flying around all over the place.
Yeah.
You sound like you had an incredible ability to not notice the school kids. You had a hell of a lot of awareness about what was going on around you.
Absolutely, mate. It was just weird. And even talking about it now, it's just like, man, I can just vividly picture all this and as these buses, trucks, cars, everyone's running late for their job in the city if that's where they're going, Anyway, she's closed the boot on me, and I've popped it again, got the thing up on the jack, it's, mucking around, doing your thing. School bus comes, kids awkwardly jump onto it, and that tears off. And this is all just happening just down the road. So it's like, concentrating on the job at hand. And get the thing up on the jack, and I remember Nikki closing the boot again as we're just sort of talking. She's hanging at the back of the car, we're sort of yelling at each other because of the noise, but we're chit-chatting, And I just remember this, this noise above everything else was just different. Like it was distant at first, but it just all of a sudden, I'm talking split second, just felt like it was just raining down on top of us, man. It was like my reaction was kind of just as I'm kneeling down on the pavement, looking over like my left shoulder, and it's like, man, the last bend that I'd explained about before just appears this truck, and it's just belted into the side, like it's clipped the side of the embankment. There's just rock, dirt, rubble, shit just explodes into the air. He mows down a bloody, I think it was the 60 sign, and the steel signpost just flicks in the air like a bloody, piece of straw in a 40-knot wind. Just this thing is roaring out of control and it's just like, this is the weirdest thing. It's just like time what happens next, so much happens in such a short period of time, like just in literally an instant of a second. But also, strangely enough, it felt like time kind of slowed down. And as I probably mentioned before, I'm kneeling down on the pavement at this split second in time. And I don't even remember thinking, shit, what are my options here? Or, assessing the situation. Shit, I've got to jump. Anything. I just frantically remember reaching for the back of Nicky's car and just somehow launching myself over the back of the car.
Over the back of it.
Full Superman spec.
Full Superman. And I just, in that moment in time, just flying through the air, just spinning. And then just remember, bang, just hitting the deck on my back. Not even in that moment in time, just like what the hell happened. Like it all happened literally so friggin' quick that I hadn't even in that point of time just like, man, what? I just get cleaned up by a friggin' truck. And then the noise, I mentioned the noise of the Jake brakes. There was just this, I've probably landed on the pavement maybe 3-4 meters directly behind Nicky's car. So I'm kind of laying on my back, staring at the sky, and just explosion of, like, the noise was just concrete, steel, rock, rubble, just explosion of, and I haven't got eyes on it, so I'm just hear this noise. I'm just like,
so you don't know where Nicky is at this point
where
in time.
Nicky is, man, and I'm just,
and so the truck's come down, it's hit the embankment.
He's just
rocks,
clipped
dirt
that
everywhere. Then the pole goes, and then it plows into the back of your car.
He
and
sends
you're on the
me
boot.
flying. He just and even in that moment in time, I couldn't even really work it out. But as he's, I guess, clipped me, he's totaled the side of Nicky's car, and that's where the drivers managed to, I guess, pull the truck like at speed. He's out of control, up off. He's totaled the side of her car, and he's just proceeded on to go back through. And as you said, Mike, I just in this instant of a second, before you even realise what the hell was happening, it's like, where the fuck, Nicky, what the, like, where's Nick? I'm going to stand up. It's like, Nicky, where the fuck, like, just couldn't see her. And as I stand up, it's like, if you guys have seen a baby giraffe being born, that stand up,
Certainly.
the legs have just flopped out from below, and I'm back staring at the sky again. And
So you try stand up, you can't. Legs aren't working.
correct, just flop back down. But it's just that panic. Where the fuck, just Nicky, like, what?
Yeah.
Her face just appears from nowhere. And the sheer relief that when I saw her face, it was just, oh man. And this is, like I said, this is just in an instant of a second, this all goes down. It's like, what the fuck just happened?
Right. And what, like you said, in that moment, you're staring up at the sky. Do you know 100% that you're being hit by a truck? Like, are you
Not
even
really.
thinking that clearly?
No.
Or you're just full-blown running on adrenaline?
100% on adrenaline, and just like, what the fuck just went down? Like, was that a semi that just rolled on the fuck through here? And you're quite right. In that moment, I don't think I actually really even sort of understood that this thing had hit me. So what had actually happened, as I explained, grabbing the back of the car and somehow fucking launching myself over the back, I've ended up parallel in the air, essentially, and the truck, whatever's the bull bar, whatever's clipped my legs literally as I'm midair.
It's like
And just
hips, knees, like whereabouts on your
But
left?
basically from my left side and just below my knee, my left knee. And it's just flicked me, much like the signpost that I tried to explain earlier. And it's like,
Now you're the piece of straw flying
I'm
through
the
the air.
piece of straw flying through the air, man. And when I hit the deck, so as he's clipped me midair, he's totaled the side of Nicky's car, smashed off the side mirror, and then jumped off the road and continued on, much to our luck. We didn't know really what happened down further from us until moments later, when it's like, shit, we're just all trying to work out what the fuck just happened here.
And so at what point? So you're on adrenaline, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the assumption that when does the pain kick in?
Yeah,
You realise that there's something,
That's
something wrong.
That's actually a really good point. And I've tried to think about it. Probably haven't spent too much time thinking about it, but when and I don't tell this story often because it's a bit traumatic to even sort of go back through. But like as soon as I knew Nicky was okay, it was like I could kind of, I guess, compute in my brain what the hell just went down. And I remember trying to sit. I knew that I couldn't stand up because I had a crack at that and it didn't work so well. I remember trying to sit up, and like my thighs went up, but the bottom half of my legs just stayed on the pavement. And I remember thinking, fuck, that didn't feel too good. I ended up just laying down and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in all sorts here. So my legs were, sorry, playing footsies here, Mike.
Not with me, you're not.
Sorry, buddy.
Fake footsies.
I remember looking down, my legs were a mess. It was, there's a bit of blood floating around and essentially my knee joints were like completely dislocated on both legs.
Yep.
So it was just, it was actually hard to even sort of recognize my legs, that they were legs. Essentially they would. So on my left leg, there was a break below the knee. But miraculous, like this is just, even saying this now, a lot of specialists or, orthopedic surgeons, and I think even one of the guys that was in, one of the surgeons in emergency had just explained that, like, the fact that you were airborne literally just
saved your life.
Yeah, like if I hadn't have jumped, that's just I'm a bug on a windscreen type scenario, like, sure. And even if in that split second in time, if I had not jumped, that's one thing. But even if I tried to hug in against the side of the car, just nah, like he's totaled the side of our car. He stayed on the jack though, amazingly enough. But the fact that
that's just testament to your ability, changing tyres.
Yeah, potentially.
Absolute gun at it, mate.
Mention
even
the hero on a white horse.
Truck can't knock it off.
When you jumped, because you kept talking about going back to the boot, you getting stuff out, was the boot open or closed?
It was closed. It was bloody well closed. We've relived this, me and her, many a time, and she would have closed this thing 3 times, and it's just like, if she hadn't closed that bloody boot,
you're not getting.
I'm not getting over the back of the car.
Yeah, that's unreal.
So that whole midair, I'm not amazing at maths, but the truck was doing. I think the report said, I think it was 124, 125 k's an hour. Just in that fragment of a second, as I'm midair, how it didn't flick me back into the side of the truck or under the truck or whatever, I just will never understand. But the way that the surgeons explained it, it's just because you were midair, your knees are pretty messed up or your legs are pretty messed up. But
and you can sort of picture, like, I mean, here I am, the blind guy saying, picture it. I'm thinking, you midair, you're on the left-hand side of the truck.
Yes.
You're already, 3/4 of your body's already out the
Outside
side
of the
of the truck,
yes.
And then going forward, pushing those legs further away, and then you just helicopter off the side. Like
exactly. Yeah, just ragdoll it from there.
Wardy, like you're buzzing off your honeymoon, you're in love, your life is, as you said before, you're living the dream, and now all of a sudden you've had this freak incident.
We're laying on the pavement. What happens next?
So the dust settles. Obviously, they
it
have
does.
to come pick you up and ship you off to hospital. When does it all sort of
This is it. Set
in?
Before they actually got to us, there was like, man, we were actually waiting around for like, if you can imagine this semi-trailer's just like sprayed I think he had a big load of steel. There's just stuff everywhere on the bottom of the freeway. It was peak out, so there's, traffic's at a standstill. It's pretty hectic. So it actually took a long time for the ambulance to get to us, and it sounds weird because it gave us a bit of time to get our head around just what had happened. But like in that moment, it was also the fact that I knew pretty instantly that we're both very fucking lucky as well. And there was like, man, there were people running out of cars coming over to us, trying to support us and seeing if we're okay. And I honestly remember like someone saying it's going to be a while until the ambulance comes. And I just remember thinking like, well, maybe we just try and have a bit of a joke and a chat here and getting a few people, and also for Nikki, just like everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And it was, I remember sort of putting my hand up with this crowd of people that were around us and just saying, hey guys, how you going? Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. It's
enjoy the
I'm
show.
all cool down it. Yeah, exactly. One poor girl, I asked her if she could take a photo so I could send it to the boys.
Really?
Oh man, this is just, stupid stuff like that. Poor girl.
Goodness, but running on adrenaline, it's so hard to explain, like the way the brain works when you are running on adrenaline.
It is,
when
man.
shit goes down.
It is. And maybe even we're talking about before about the where does that, I guess, energy come from, and maybe a bit of a hype guy type sort of thing. I just remember thinking if that can keep everyone else kind of calm, it probably helps me be calm as well with blood and shit everywhere and pretty uncomfortable feeling in there. And there was just like this guy comes over. Sorry, tell me if I'm going on.
No, you're all right, mate.
But if there's like a guy gets out of his car, runs over in his business suit and takes his suit jacket off and tries to kind of wedge it up because I'm holding my thighs like I can't let go of my thighs because it's going to put pressure on the joint. Like sort of probably carrying on a bit like a stuck pig. And this poor bloke, he's like holding one of my legs for me and he's got like blood up his bloody white bloody business shirt type scenario. And he's like, man, we'll get a beer after this when it's all, and it's just this whole, I guess it could have been an hour, it could have been 5 minutes. It's just slowed down and it kind of gave us a chance to, I guess, wow, this has all happened. And eventually Ambo's come. And then you boys ever had a green whistle?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, bro.
You haven't got one on you now, do you?
Mate, if I did,
Mate,
this chat could go. Yeah, if you've had one, Mike, like you remember that thing is like the clouds just split and God himself just delivered me.
Because you've got adrenaline, and then all of a sudden, once the pain starts hitting you, then you're in some strife. So that's the first thing I'm assuming the ambulance give you.
Yeah, big time.
And they're talking you through what's going to happen next. Stretcher.
And they thought I was talking some shit before this, man. Like, that green whistle sent me off.
Yeah.
So that was kind of just that sort of scenario there. And it wasn't till, I guess to probably answer your question from minutes ago, Mike, I just guess once we got to hospital, there was a lot of stuff in emergency that was all a bit of a blur thanks to the
green whistle.
The old God sent green whistle. But it took a fair while to really find out what happened further on down from us.
Processing it all, yeah.
Yeah, there was, a lot of...
Yeah, where did the truck end up?
Yeah, so this is the other part to this story that just even telling it just blows my mind over how lucky or, God just didn't want me gone that day, man, because so the car carrier that was broken down in the bus slip lane, after the school bus had left, there's another big what if, like.
Yeah, so those 12 kids weren't there anymore?
Nah, gone. So what actually happened? Well, after the school bus left, the broken down car carrier truck driver got out, sat himself in the bus shelter. He was on the phone wandering around and both me and Nikki just remember the bloke just sitting and chilling, maybe waiting in the bus shelter. What had actually happened after that truck had come down and cleaned me and Nikki's car up, he had somehow managed to, he was obviously, had no control of the truck, but he somehow managed to steer it, grazed the side of our car, jumped off the road, and obviously the car carrier was maybe 20 metres below, so he's kind of weaved in between Nikki's car, the back of the car carrier, and he's unfortunately just mowed down the bus shelter with poor old mate.
The truck driver sitting in it.
Sitting in there, and then proceeded on to just, he ended up like that. That truck was never stopping unless it
hit something.
Something stopped it.
It hit something.
And did the man lose his life? The bus shelter?
Unfortunately, yeah.
That's terrible.
Yep. So my fate was sadly for him and his family, a lot different. A poor bugger.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, mate.
yeah.
And you're talking about some pretty new and raw stuff. Newish. It's something that you're never ever going to forget. And obviously you've got your wife sitting there. I want to hear a little bit about what was she doing through all this. She would have been absolutely Tell us about that.
Yeah, she. I actually often think that, like, man, getting hit by the truck was actually the easy bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that was, and it's a cool story. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's it's a story.
When you can sit here and tell it today, but like you say, it's split second stuff. Like, especially with
she's seen this whole fucking shooting match go
front
down.
row seat.
She was right at the back of the car. For just all these little what ifs that could have been, how she sort of walked away from it. She literally had a scratch in her arm. I don't know how there was signposts flying ultimately she had to see what she had to see, and then it was the the stuff afterwards that would have been so tough for her, man. Like, so yeah.
How long were you
Poor
in
bugger.
hospital for? Like, and then the support, like her support through that. Like, what happens next?
Yeah, well, so like I was probably I reckon it was like maybe 4 weeks, and then I was in a like a rehab center there for another week. So she wasn't having to drive me around a whole lot when I was in there. But after that, there was like, man, I couldn't drive for some time. But she took me everywhere. Like it was, she was there the whole time.
Your injuries, so
Yes.
afterwards, and what did that actually mean for your life?
Sure.
And you mentioned rehab, so you spent a bit of time in rehab too.
Yeah. I don't know at what point, it was pretty early on in the piece in hospital that kind of made a subconscious decision to, I guess, not really care what they're doing to me. Like, you guys are good at what you do, just do what you got to do, fix stuff. And even to this day, I couldn't rattle off all of the little things that I had to go in and do.
Like surgery after surgery after surgery.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I just felt like that didn't really help my situation if I was using my headspace and energy just keeping up with it all.
Yep.
If that makes sense. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but essentially just so lucky. Like the fact that I've got bung knees now, and live with knee pain, and that's it, really.
Yep.
Like I've gone through, a fair bit of, I took it pretty seriously getting back, and getting as much strength in and around my legs as I can, and whatever else. I took it ultra serious, but ultimately what it sort of meant for me was now, after the incident, it's just, I've just got to try and preserve, they're going to have a lifespan, if that makes sense. So I've been early 20s with those type injuries, I guess, was it all of a sudden just sort of went to, you probably don't want to be on the tools, up and down ladders, running around like a headless chook on a construction site anymore. And obviously, shouldn't be running, let alone playing footy anymore. So that there was, that was a bit of an adjustment.
I was going to say they're two things that outside of your beautiful new bride,
Yes.
basically made up your life, mate. By the sounds
100%.
of it, on the tools and A-grade footy captain.
Yeah.
That would have been not just a little adjustment. I think that's probably understating it.
Big time.
From an identity point of view and a where you fit into the community and the world and your role in it, like that.
Yeah.
That would have been big, mate.
Especially-
from a headspace point of view.
Especially at a, what was it? Like early 20s. Yeah. I was just like, oh man, this sucks. But a certain part of that as well sort of feeds into this whole, I don't want to, I could tell me if I'm digressing. I'll digress quicker than a runaway truck, mate. It's just pull me up if you need to. But I know I had this thing in hospital of like, and I don't want this to go against what you boys have said, because I know in season 1, I can't remember what episode it was, you boys on your podcast spoke about the fact that there's always someone worse off. I genuinely actually took that as like kind of a bit of a mantra, like a bit of a mentality that I used, if that makes sense. So I was like, oh man, there were dudes in the hospital ward when I was in there that were just way worse off than me. They probably didn't have as cool a story as I, have now, but it's
They may not have been hit by a
physically,
truck.
man,
And I think, like, thinking about your mindset, even early days, and listening to you unpack your story, you've used the word lucky a lot. I'm so lucky. So you've already, I guess you're seeing the lighter side of you, saying, this could have been so much worse. So having that mindset and saying, if I hadn't have jumped and those sorts of things, I wouldn't have been here. So was that way of thinking, did that really help you propel you to, move on and make the most of the situation that could have been far worse?
I would, even you just sitting here saying that, Mike, absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know. I never.
Because some people might suggest, geez, you were unlucky. Wrong
Yes.
place, wrong time, mate.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
you don't take that view. You've got
Yeah.
this view that, hey, listen, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Trucks come, hit me, and it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess off the back of that is, like, there's so many, you hear them all, the cliches and the throwaway, play the cards you dealt, and lemonade out of lemons and all the sayings, but it's like there is so much magic in that. Like just having that outlook on things, which maybe naturally I wouldn't have had, you know, if I hadn't had, you know, this bullshit happened to me, you know. It's like, I've never really felt like the victim in it all. Just, you know, now 15 years later, I'm going, man, yeah, like maybe that's actually, maybe it's kind of made me as a dude, you know, or as a guy. So, yeah, you can definitely adopt that there. But
and I think we all heard it before, mate, like without taking you back to, I think, probably something that's very deep inside you that probably doesn't come out all that often. I think, yeah, 100%, like you said, season 1, and Mike and I talk a lot about it, and I think there's a hell of a lot of merit in saying don't compare your situation, your shit to anybody else's, because if you're looking for who's better off or worse off and you're playing this comparison game, like it doesn't necessarily, there isn't much benefit in it if you're just looking at the result being potentially feeling sorry for yourself, or maybe, oh, I don't want to talk about my stuff because there's somebody worse off than me. That's sort of the context that we talk about it in. Like, don't bottle your stuff up because you feel like the person next to you or the person talking to you is worse off than you, so they shouldn't be hearing your stuff. That's sort of the context we talk about. But you've got
100%.
this very, very real example of you're the survivor, and as you just said before, like choking up, there was a bloke 20 metres down the road that wasn't a survivor. And that is a very natural, I think, connection to go, I was the lucky bloke in this situation, because there was one bloke who got hit by a truck and he's still here with bung knees, and there's another bloke who's not here. So I think that perspective, don't discredit yourself and don't say, oh, I know I probably shouldn't feel like this, because I think in that scenario, like 100%, there was worse off. Like 100% there was, much worse.
And also, I guess, if you adopt that as well, like everyone's shit that they're going through is relative to them in their moment in time as well. I mean, there's even one of my best mates in the whole entire world, he's just gone through some shit, you know. He's come out the back of it, and it's like, you can never compare someone's shit to someone else's shit, because in their life at that point in time, that's their battle, and you never want to discount the fact that, yeah, in the moment, man, sometimes you just can't see through it. You can't, you know, and that's the difficult thing, I guess, you know, that we're all sitting here doing now, being vulnerable and, you know, having some pretty meaningful bloody conversations.
Mate,
100%. So Wardy, your recovery obviously takes quite a significant amount of time to get back up. You have to put everything on the back burner with work and all that sort of stuff. You know, you had a lot on the go. You said it was a really wonderful job you're working on. So what did the aftermath of that look like? How did you build your life back up? Yeah, there was... And you mentioned before as well, you're not on the tools, but you're obviously still doing work, but in a different way. Sure.
So, like, yeah, you're 100% right. It took a bit of time just to get my head around, shit, what am I going to do? I just... Being young, I couldn't really see past, you know, all I wanted to do was be the captain of the footy club and be a chippy, you know, like that was it. So I was like, shit, what do we do here? But I ended up doing, like, sort of started to get into a bit of site management, estimating, still in construction, but completely out of my comfort zone, especially as a young, like early 20s type dude. Like, it was way out of my comfort zone. And honestly, I didn't even want to do it. Like, I just had this chip on my shoulder, you know, like this chip on my shoulder, man. I should be a chippy, it should be, you know, rah. So I got into that side of things, you know, off the tools, and worked for various different builders, you know, for maybe 5 or 6 years. And in that time, I tried my guts out, man, to just sort of lean into the fact that, you know, if you get better at this, you know, this is who you'll be. You know, you'll be a general builder for the rest of your life. You can do, you know, and I didn't necessarily want to do. I just, like I said, freaking chip on my shoulder, man. Like, you know, so probably I got in there. Never really replaced. I remember not being able to play footy anymore was massive, and I don't think I ever necessarily replaced that team, you know, sport. So I just used to. back to the hype guy stuff, man. Like I was at a young age, I was a captain of a footy club, given these pre-game, half-time, three-quarter time speed, and I used to just love that team. You know, getting with the ball. I remember going out into a footy field and just looking. I would die for you boys out here in this third quarter.
That was your thing. Like
You know?
that's what got you
Come
off.
on, man. That's it. That's why I was there. So you take those two things out of it. I guess, yeah, it took me a fair while to find my way, and I don't know, I'll be honest, whether I ever did. Once again, tangents, I'm really bad. But going back to being off the tools with my work, I ended up maybe 5 or 6 years after I ended up with my general builder's license, just because I thought, you know, that's what I got to do. I ended up getting that because I knew my shit. By the end of 6 years, I'd had some pretty tough, you know, site conversations with plumbers, electricians that were, you know, 2-3 times my age, and, you know, my age was their industry experience type. You know, I've got a pretty thick skin in these type of roles in construction that I had, and I built these kind of, I don't know, coping mechanisms with doing something that I ultimately don't really enjoy because it's pretty chip on my shoulder, man.
Was your headspace that I shouldn't be doing this? As in, if my life was different, I should be on the tools.
Yeah.
I should be that guy instead of this guy.
Yeah, 100%. And then, and that's why probably after 6 years, I'm like, oh, bugger this. This is not going to be forever. But in the moment, I'm like, I'm going to go buy a new trailer, upgrade a few of my old tools, get back out and just chase some subcontracting work, just working for myself, just me as Chippy. And that was a bit of a turning point, but not in the way that I thought it would be, if that makes sense. I remember the first day, first job, I've rocked up. I'm like, I'm back, baby. You know, like this is, and that feeling lasted for a while. But
how was the body holding up?
Well, yeah, and this is the thing. I was like, this is not going to be forever.
Yeah.
But if I just get back out and have a crack at it, I can just hopefully remove the bloody chip off my shoulder, you know. And the knees were that hurt, but this stage, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You're living with a bit of knee pain, and you sort of get on with it. And after maybe 6 months, 9 months, 12 months maybe, it was pretty clear that I'm like, yeah, man, getting back on the tools is probably not, you know.
Not long term.
Not long term. And I found myself kind of, I guess I'll go there, like slipping into a bit of a comfort zone of, you know, maybe chasing a few easier jobs, you know, not getting myself out there and really going after the good work and pushing myself and all the rest. Maybe drinking a bit too much, just getting into this comfort zone of like, I'm a bit lost now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There was this, and this is only probably in the last couple of years, I heard this thing about, you know, with this whole comfort zone thing about, you know, if things aren't that bad, but if they're not that good, you never galvanize yourself into actually doing something, and you find yourself in I want to get this right. You find yourself getting into a chasm of comfortable complacency. And
I like it.
I like it a lot.
I don't even know. I can't remember where I heard it. I'm just like, man, that was me.
Because you've got this, you know, sometimes it probably takes a while. You got adrenaline, probably lasts a little bit longer than maybe you imagine, but then finally it sort of sinks in, and you got this massive hole to fill in your life around your footy and your mates and the role that you play that you can't get out there. And I suppose I'd love you to tell us if I'm right or wrong here, but, you know, were you able to go back and still be a part of that team, be a part of that club, even though you couldn't contribute in the way that you wanted to? Yeah,
so you've hit the nail there, mate, because it took me a long time to even really go back to the club to kind of get back involved.
Sure.
Just you know what it's like, you know, you get injured at footy and you're pretty down yourself for the weekend that you're not playing. Took me a while, man, but my boys there, like they're still some of my lifelong mates. So I got back involved, but just in a capacity where me and Nicky years later obviously had kids. I'm like, man, Harry, where's he going to play? Bang, he's back there where old boy played, you know. So my involvement back there is, in a capacity now. I get to coach his footy team, and man, I get so much satisfaction out of that.
I love it.
But bringing that footy club mentality, and I guess, team mentality to other things in life as well, like skiing, Benny, like ski for life stuff, you know. If you've got a ski team, there's a guy trying to push himself a few more kilometres than he often might, get himself out of his comfort zone, like I keep saying. But, I love just getting behind guys and girls for that matter, just anyone that really wants to push themselves. And, there's a role that you can play as a hype guy.
I love it.
Just go. So I found myself years later replacing, I think, that playing footy with maybe that mentality.
Yeah, the building others up, which is, I think, an awesome choice that you made to go, right, I've still got so much to offer just in a different capacity, whereas I know for like me losing my eyesight, I went straight back into coaching, and they wanted to keep me around the team from a social dynamic and a connection point of view.
Sure.
But every week rocking up, it was just like rubbing salt in the wound. And did you, like, you're walking back into that same environment where you go, similar to what you were with work, that chip on your shoulder going, yes, I'm doing this and I know that it's probably good for me, or maybe it's the direction or the only path I have. Like the choice is taken away a little bit, but there's that chip on the shoulder, and it was this salt in the wound, bittersweet of going, yes, I'm here, but I want to be doing what those players are doing. Did you have that at the start? Like obviously time goes past, perspective changes with kids, you get back involved from a coaching point of view, but early days, like, are the boys reaching out saying, come back down, and are you resisting? Like you said, it took you a while to get back there. Yeah,
there was probably, and once again, you're right. Some of my lifelong mates at the footy club, everyone, man, so much support. Like I'm so lucky to have the family I have, the mates that I've got. Like, 100%. Everyone around the footy club, getting me involved and keeping me up, with all the lads, and the most support ever. But they were just too hard, and we sort of, I just for a period of time probably just distanced myself 100%.
Time.
From that. So
to recover. That was, it's
time to heal.
It's a massive thing in your life.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've recovered well. You mentioned your kids. Tell us about them.
Yeah, man. Love him to death. Harry's out there playing footy. He's a sport nut like his old man. He loves his basketball. Anything. We had him into jiu-jitsu there for a bit. He just, with another mate of his, and anything he can get his hands on, he loves. In terms of being active and, physical around the place. And Annie, man, I don't know where to start with her. She's just, oh man, I love that kid so much. Maybe at times, a little bit more than Harry. She's daddy's little girl here and there, but
Sorry, Harry, if you're listening, mate.
One day you might listen to this, Dog, and
love you too.
Love you too, buddy. But kids are there, and they're just hey, we keep going back to this little thing that happened to me years ago, but they generally are a constant reminder to me of, they're not here if I'm not here, so.
And you're lucky to be here, mate.
Say again, mate.
And you're very lucky to be here.
Yeah, 100%.
We spoke at the earlier in the show, Wardy, around the old definition of tough, and you gave a very physical, manly, muscly sort of, character in a football sense that was tough for you. But going through what you went through, a life-changing circumstance, and how lucky you are to be here, onto rehab, having to rebuild your life, find a different form of identity. What does tough mean to you now?
Yeah, it's I've actually considered it. To me, and I hope I don't get kicked off the podcast here, but
no chance.
I genuinely feel that the old school tough, to a certain extent, has a really important place in today's day and age still.
Yeah.
But there's certain elements of it that can go fuck off. Like the bottling up your emotions, never allowing yourself to be vulnerable. That's not being tough, just, putting that there. But the whole meaning of tough to me is pretty well, being able to endure through hardships and all that, but realising that you don't do it by yourself, man. Like, you got the footy club behind you, you got your family, you got your mates. You don't have to endure those hardships by yourself.
Yeah.
So I still see Gary McIntosh as the hardest mother going, old school tough, and every single drogomula uncle of mine. But there's also that other side to it as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Having tough combos with your mates. That's
I think
that's a beautiful balance.
If you think that definition of tough, which I think was beautifully articulated, is going to get kicked off the podcast, you think again, mate, because that was a really, really good response and a great way to answer it. And I'm sure that all of your teammates that you're playing footy with, knowing that what you went through and how well you've come through and still to be positive and have the attitude that you've got is quite remarkable. I'm sure you'd be pretty tough in their books,
Sure.
in every sense of the word rather than just the physical one.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's cool to hear that definition actually, because I think sometimes people probably feel when they come on the potty and we ask that question, people probably go, well, I have to do a completely different version of tough. But I think no one would listen if we said everything that makes you tough, that old school definition of tough, throw all that shit out because this version's better. I think you've actually nailed it by saying there's a lot of merit in that. But some of the stuff we need to throw out and we need to add to that definition because, like you said, you wouldn't have got through what you got through without having that old school grit and determination just to get back on the horse.
Yes.
But not going through it alone and leaning on Nicky and the family and the mates and the footy club.
Yeah.
And being open enough to do that, I think is a bloody cool definition.
You just mentioned it with the grit your teeth and get through it. There's a certain part where you go, like Mike Rolls and Benny Pettingill don't end up with some sort of determination and gritting of the teeth, end up doing what you do now to inspire others. And Ned Brockman doesn't run across the bloody country like a crazy maniac. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's part of that, 100%, that it's still very valuable, but it's don't wholly and solely rely on that. I think is the cool thing. And mate, you're involved in Ski for Life as well. Obviously, charity partner for the podcast. Do you want to just tell us a little bit as we wrap up what being involved in Ski for Life has sort of meant for you?
Sure.
With the injury to your ski now, are you the hype guy there? Like, how's the involvement? How long you been involved for? Team, just give us a bit of a rundown there.
Yeah, sure. So, look, we mentioned earlier in this convo about how do you replace certain things that you might have taken away from you. Like, we mentioned the footy and all the active staff and a really close group of friends of mine years ago, we were all skiing together up the river, and it's something that I'd been doing from a young age as well. And I honestly thought that was probably something that's been taken away from me as well, after this accident. So getting back into skiing was something that kind of came from nowhere, and the boys probably pushed me into it, but because I'm a bit of a rubber arm, I'm like, let's go. And I found that, man, I'm on a knife's edge. Like, I'm not really skiing. I'm just kind of hanging on for dear life these days. But with the way my legs are, I just found that, I can do it and I can kind of push myself to do it. Just maybe don't try and be the hero throwing rooster tails and cutting in and out like you may have once back in your heyday. So when we started to seriously kind of get together and ski more as a bunch of mates and families, this whole Ski for Life thing, we were lucky enough to know a bloke by the name of Bill Stockman, who back in the day we were kicking around with him a little bit in Renmark back when he started with all his crazy maniac bunch of mates. And at the time as well, we had a close friend of ours that unfortunately lost his dad to suicide. And not long after that, we had another workmate of ours, same thing. It's like, this is just something we need to be involved in. So we got ourselves involved initially to, awesome event, go skiing. I'm going to be honest, probably treated it as a bit of a boys' trip at the early days, but very quickly realised that it's just something that we seriously want to help with and be involved in, and set some good, how can we actually help improve this thing and get it better, and just build some awesome relationships and just watch it go from to the awesome outfit that it is now. Hype guy sort of stuff. I do. I love being involved there, man. Like,
I think we found our episode name anyway. Hype guy.
Hype guy.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know if that's
guy.
embarrassing or not, man. But that's to me, once again, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a bit as well. Like so everyone does it for their own reasons, but when you're skiing behind a boat and you are thinking, man, I wonder if I can just get to the next stop, or if I could get to lunch, or pulling into Cobb Dogler and have a beer with the boys or whatever. And it's like, nah, it's too far. My arms hurt too much. My legs hurt too much. It's just who have you got around you? It's your mates and your ski team.
Yeah,
They're going to get you through the next bunch of kilometres and see how far you can go. And you'll be amazed at how bloody far
And I think
you
I
can go.
love that because that is, yes, it's true in skiing, but that's the same reliance we need on our mates when we're going through tough shit as well. Have your mates around you and be just as supportive to one another when we're going through shit, because hanging on for dear life and having 30 Ks of gale force winds to get through before you get to Cobby,
water.
That's a struggle
against
too.
you. Yeah,
life can be a battle, and having your mates around you can absolutely help with that. And I think, mate, you also touched a probably a really important point there, which was the relationships we've built through Ski for Life. Legless, mate, you've been on the event once. I've been involved for a long time, and Wardy, we've become close mates now through Ski for Life. There's a number of people that have come on the potty that have had a connection to Ski for Life, and we wouldn't be sitting here without it. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on, for just bringing the hype, but two being so vulnerable as well. I think just running through that story. I mean, we probably spent who knows how long, half an hour going through what took 30 seconds. But like you said, that moment in time has redefined your life, has changed the trajectory of it, and probably had such an impact from a mental health point of view, a head noise point of view, a identity point of view, and that's how quick life can change for not just yourself, but so many people out there listening. So appreciate you sharing.
Boys, awesome. Honestly, I seriously just loved it, mate. Anytime I can get in a room with you too, mate.
Let's do it.
Love it.
Book a hotel, here we go.
Beautiful stuff.
Thanks, Wardy. You're an absolute legend, mate.
Thanks
for coming
lads.
on.
Enjoy.
Appreciate it, mate.
Cheers.